Imagine there was a superhero movie that heavily changed the original story from the source material, hire an actor that looked nothing like the original character from the comic books, and had been stuck in production hell for at least 5 years with multiple directors picking up and dropping the project at the 11th hour, and finally released in a time period where the whole concept of the superhero movie wasn't even as half as popular as it is today. Now imagine all of this, but then the movie comes out and it's actually good. That's when you get Constantine.
Cold.
Sure about this?
No.
Mr. Constantine, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
I know the circles you travel in, the occult, exorcisms.
What if I told you that God and the devil made a wager for the souls of all mankind? No direct contact with humans, that would be the rule. Just influence. See who would win.
Demons stay in hell, angels in heaven.
They call it the balance.
I need to see what you see.
You do this, there's no turning back. You see them. They see you. Understand? Go to hell.
The year is 2005. With the success of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, and the X-Men going for their second installment, superhero blockbuster films have just begun picking up steam. Funny thing is, just like 20 years ago, the vast majority of success was coming from Marvel, to the point where most studios out there were fighting for the rights of every Marvel superhero available, which led to really funny flops across the decade. Aside from Batman Begins, DC Comics didn't really have anything in particular on the big screen at that point. So whoever pitched the idea of a Constantine movie, a pretty unknown DC superhero, must have had really good persuasion skills. The truth is, Constantine began production way back in 1997, but due to issues with the director, the movie was pushed back to 2002. Luckily for everyone, more production issues arose and the new director opted out of the project. I say luckily because initially Constantine was planned to be played by none other than Nicolas Cage. I guess Nick still had the edgy and moody reputation as an actor back then. Looking back, it's hilarious how many times they've tried to miscast this guy over the years. But anyways, the film was basically stuck in production hell. Warner Bros. Had already lost two directors to manage the project, one of them which went into legal disputes with the company after dropping out, which then led to Nick Cage finally abandoning the boat not too long after. Enter Keanu Reeves, fresh from The Matrix and at an all-time peak in popularity, with Francis Lawrence in his debut as a film director. Admittedly, Keanu wasn't the perfect fit either, but being stuck with the option of him or Nicolas Cage, I choose Keanu any day. Also, if it weren't for him accepting the role, this film wouldn't exist at all. So yeah, he was pretty awesome even way back then. And I guess this is exactly when the film does a complete 180 and starts rising from the depths of hell it was in. Because then they went on to hire Rachel Weisz, Shia LaBeouf, Tilda Swinton, Peter Stormare, Jimon Hunsu, all of them popular actors at the time that feature multiple award-winning movies and other blockbusters. So production is finally shaping up, and the cast is basically a dream team for the time. The director, although a beginner, is confident and willing to stick with the game plan. All the pieces are finally there, right? Nope. You see, when it comes to adaptations and legacy character movies in particular, fan bases tend to be pretty demanding. And in the case of the Constantine movie, nothing really hit the mark. The original character of John Constantine is pretty different from Keanu Reeves in every way possible. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. In the comics, John is not only blue-eyed, blonde, and British from Liverpool no less, and with a Scouse accent, of course. And if you've ever heard what a Scouse accent sounds like, well, you probably know how peculiar it is.
This is only £5 chicken burger and chips. So nice, such a bargain, and proper nice as well.
He also has a pretty different attitude and sense of humor. Simply put, Keanu Reeves showing up with a brooding aura, dry humor, dark hair, brown eyes, and a standard American accent is the exact opposite of the comic book persona. Not only was the main character a different type of guy from the comics, the world of the movie was substantially different as well. In the comic books, everything paranormal has a more worldly background, whereas in the film, everything is based on the Christianity mythos, thus making John Constantine more of an exorcist rather than a sorcerer. And lastly, this is a superhero movie with no origin story. That means we don't follow the journey of John Constantine becoming who he is, like in the first Iron Man or every Spider Man reboot. Rather, by the time the movie starts, John is pretty much already gone through an entire lifetime's worth of character development from which we only get to see a little bit in the film. So we could say the movie itself is the end of a significant overall story arc, which is the worst time to introduce a character. As I said at the beginning, this is a pretty orthodox way of showing a story, especially by today's standards. I'd say they did this to please both existing fans of the character as well as newcomers, which usually ends up upsetting both. Living in a timeline where Disney has ruined every legacy character and stories they get their hands on, we could assume a movie like Constantine was doomed to fail. After all, an adaptation that deviates so far from the source material has next to no chances of succeeding, but it did. The movie went on to amass $230 million in the box office worldwide, making it a decent profitable film, with the DVD release as a second chance to earn even more in a time when DVD players were at an all-time high in popularity. So how come there wasn't such a massive outrage from the fans like there is nowadays? Well, simply put, the movie is really entertaining. But the long answer is, there weren't any attempts at promoting any messages, political or social. Not even an attempt to appeal to Christianism, even though the movie heavily used Christian symbols and lore in 2005, a time when Republicans in the US were going crazy trying to push concepts like intelligent design in public schools. Almost a forgotten era. It's almost difficult to remember there was a point in time where not every movie release was about politics, unless they were specifically about politics, of course. In other words, the movie is focused entirely on being entertaining. That's it. And all the actors were hired based on merit and how much attention from the audience their names will draw in. So basically, no diversity hires either. Other than that, the overall performance by the entire cast was pretty damn good. Keanu Reeves brought a different interpretation of the character, and I say this with no intention of trying to gloss over the fact that it's a completely different character than the original John Constantine. And I'm guessing this is one of the reasons why fans of the original didn't care about the changes as much as modern fans do today. This is a reimagined version of John Constantine that plays like a paranormal neo-noir film. A what-if universe where John is American instead of British, and the quality of the story earns itself that spot with a plot whose story pacing was so simple and effective, it feels timeless. I look back at this movie and I feel nostalgic when I realize how simplistic entertainment used to be, when shows and films were just entertaining, and actors focused on promoting their movies rather than a one-sided social message. In recent times, due to Keanu Reeves' rise in popularity thanks to the John Wick franchise coming to an end, rumors are spreading around about a possible sequel, with Keanu himself coming back to reprise the role, as well as the original director, Francis Lawrence, to direct the film. I was really excited about the news until I saw who was stepping in to produce it.
I very purposely wanted to sort of revisit the old in order to start and tell the new. And that was the challenge. And again, for those who hate it, I could not respect your opinion more. And for those who love it, I question your sanity. It felt right to us at the time, and as does this one now.
J.J. Abrams, the most overrated yes man director of all time, is definitely going to get his hands all over the plot and casting decisions, which means that a revision version for a modern audience is almost inevitable. So at least I wanted people to know how good the 2005 movie was before the sequel comes out, probably next year, and disappoints a new generation of moviegoers, just like The Matrix 4, for example. Also, I've purposely avoided any spoilers during this review because I actually want people to check this movie out. I think it's really fun, and if you have spare time, you won't regret using it for this. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.